Ready to escape into a world of enchanting pixels? What is up, my peeps? And today we're going to be reading Lady and the Tramp. It was Christmas Day of the year 1910 in a small American town, a very special Christmas for a young couple because it was their first one together. Jim Deere handed his wife, Darling, a gift box tied with a big ribbon. When Darling opened it, a little Cocker Spaniel puppy peeked out. "Oh, I love her," Darling exclaimed. What a perfectly beautiful little lady." And that's how Lady got her name. On Christmas night, Jim Deere and Darling took Lady into her own little basket with her own little cover. Then they turned out the lights and went upstairs to bed. Lady climbed out of the basket and followed them, howling. 3 times they brought her back downstairs. Finally... Love the fourth wall break here. Finally, being intelligent people, they understood. From that night on, Lady slept on their bed. It was a happy life. Each morning after after waking Jim Deere, Lady would dash out through her own little door and bring in the mail and the newspaper. All day while Jim Deere was away, she policed the yard and kept the house safe by chasing away blackbirds, butterflies, and anything or anyone else she thought dangerous. In the evening, when she heard Jim Deere's whistle, she raced to meet him. Then she raced him to the front door. Jim Deere, who was always polite, would say, "Ladies first," as he opened the front door for her. At night, when the 3 of them sat around the fireplace together, Lady thought there could be no happier family in the world. Her 2 best friends were Jock, an elderly Scotty who lived next door, and Trusty, an aging Southern bloodhound who lived across the street. One day they were joined by a stranger in town, a carefree, cocky mongrel named Tramp. Her friends noticed that something was troubling Lady and tried to help her. Jim Deere and Darling were expecting a baby, and Lady said sadly, "They seem to have lost all interest in her." "Well, now, lassie, I wouldn't worry too much. I wouldn't worry too much. I'm a wee head about that." Jock tried to comfort her. I think Jock is Scottish, by the way. I think he is. It makes sense. "You see, Miss Lady," Trusty explained, "there comes a time in all the life of humans when, well, like with the birds and the bees, a stork comes and brings a cute little bundle of joy. They'll still love you too. Why, Miss Lady, everyone knows a dog's best friend is his human." Lady was cheered a little, but then the stranger Tramp spoke up. And what he said was exactly... Oh God, I cannot speak today. Tramp spoke up, and what he said was exactly what was worrying Lady. "Remember this, Pigeon," Tramp pointed out. "When a baby moves in, the dog moves out." Poor Lady. Tears sprang to her lovely brown eyes. Tramp continued, "That nice warm bed by the fire? Forget it. You'll wind up in a leaky doghouse." Jock was furious with the stranger for upsetting his friend. "Off with you," he barked. We've no need of mongrels here and their radical ideas." Okay, trying to make sure I wasn't skipping a page there. Lady thought about Tramp's warning a lot during the next months. Then one April night, there was great excitement in the little house. The doctor came and stayed quite a while. Jim Deere ran up and down the stairs and hardly noticed Lady. After a time, a strange sound came from Darling's room, a kind of whimpering cry. Jim Deere ran out, yelling happily, "It's a boy! It's a boy!" For a few days, Lady was kept out of the bedroom she used to share with Jim Deere and Darling because the baby lived there with them. She could hear Darling singing soft, sweet songs, and Jim Deere would lower his voice and walk on tiptoe when he entered the room. Lady stood guard out in the hall, but one evening Jim Deere patted her head and said, "It's high time you meet the rest of the family, Lady." And he brought her over to the cradle. Darling, looking happier and more beautiful than ever, was singing the baby to sleep, as Jim Deere, and Lady looked down at the little pink creature. They were a happy family once more. Lady wagged her tail joyfully. Tramp had been all wrong. After a short month later, Jim Deere and Darling were packing their suitcases for a short trip. Jim's Aunt Sarah was coming to look after the baby. Don't worry, old girl, Jim said to Lady. We'll be back in a few days, and you'll be here to help Aunt Sarah. But the first thing Aunt Sarah did after she arrived was to chase Lady out of the room. Shoo, shoo, scat, get out of here. You'll frighten the baby. No one had ever spoken to Lady like that before. Her feelings were hurt, and sadly she went downstairs to be by herself for a while. In the living room, an astonishing sight greeted Lady. There was Aunt Sarah's basket, and out of it slithered two of the silkiest creatures Lady had ever seen. Slyly they looked at her and purred. We are Simis, if you please. We are Simis, if you don't please. We are looking over our new domicile. If we like, we may stay here for maybe quite a while. Then the two cats leapt about the room and did the most outrageous things. Mischief that the well-brought-up lady would never have dreamed of. They climbed the birdcage stand, they jumped on the sofa cushions, they slid on the piano, scratching its polished surface with their sharp claws. They frightened the wits out of the goldfish when they tried to catch it. Then they started upstairs to find the baby's milk. Lady, horrified, could stand no more. She barked furiously and went after the cats. Guests or no guests, they could not be allowed to wreck her family's house and steal the baby's milk. Aunt Sarah heard the commotion and stormed downstairs. There were her precious cats, chased to the top of the bookshelf by that vicious dog who had made the room an absolute shambles. Oh, you wicked animal, Aunt Sarah scolded, attacking my poor innocent little angels, and she hauled Lady off to a pet store and had her muzzled and leashed. Terrified of the strange leather straps enclosing her face, Lady broke free and ran out of the pet store. She was in a strange neighborhood and had only run about a block when a pack of vicious dogs caught sight of her and gave chase. They pursued her into an alley and had her cornered when Tramp, who was lunching nearby and recognized Lady, leapt between her and the charging dogs. He was an old street brawler from way back, and fighting fiercely, he beat off the pack of dogs and chased them away. What are you doing in this rough part of town, Pigeon? He asked Lady. Then he saw the muzzle. We've got to get that thing off. I know just the place. Taking Lady's leash in his mouth, he led her to the zoo. Lady was so grateful to be protected by a big, strong dog that she asked no questions. When they reached the zoo, they first went to the alligator's cage. One look at his mouthful of teeth, and they decided to try something smaller. At the beaver's pond, Tramp announced, There's the answer to our problem. Sure enough, the beaver, though busy, was happy to oblige. With his strong front teeth, which could chew through trees, he made quick work of chewing through the leather straps, and the muzzle fell off. You can keep it, friend. It's all yours, said Tramp. While Lady laughed for the first time in ages. To celebrate, Tramp took Lady to dinner at Tony's Italian restaurant. Tony and his chef charaded the romantic couple, and Tramp asked Lady if she would stay with him and share his happy-go-lucky life. We'd be footloose and collar-free, he said. It sounds wonderful. Lady sighed, but who would watch over the baby? She had made a promise to Jim dear and darling and could not break it, so Tramp sadly agreed to take her home. At home, Lady was in disgrace, and Aunt Sarah forced her to stay in the doghouse, away from the baby and her precious cats. It was a rainy day. I'm gonna guess day. Night, not day. I was wrong. It was a rainy night, and the doghouse leaked. Miserably, Lady kept watch over her snug, warm home, where a light burned in the baby's window. Suddenly, she saw a dark shape scurry across the yard and up the trellis to the baby's room. A rat! Frantically, she barked a warning, but Aunt Sarah only called out, Lady, stop that racket this minute, or you'll be sorry. But Tramp heard the noise several blocks away and came running to see if Lady was in trouble. A rat's in the baby room, she told him. They both rushed to the house, squeezed in through Lady's little door, and quickly climbed the stairs to the baby's room. Tramp chased the rat all around the room, and the baby's crib was overturned, but the infant was unharmed. While Lady watched over the baby, Tramp cornered the rat at last behind the curtains and killed it. Lady was so proud of him, and so relieved that the baby was safe, but Aunt Sarah, disturbed by the noise, came into the room, saw the overturned crib and the strange mongrel, and screamed, Merciful heavens, you vicious brutes! She locked Lady in a closet and chased Tramp to the cellar. "That's it!" Aunt Sarah declared. "Now I'm going to call the dog catcher." Tramp was taken away in the dog catcher's wagon and was to be destroyed the next day. Luckily, Jim Deer and Darling returned home not after that. When they released Lady from the closet, she barked so urgently that Jim asked, "What is it, old girl? What are you trying to tell us?" Lady rushed over to the curtains and barked louder. Jim lifted a corner of the curtains, and there lay the dead rat. Then they understood everything. Jim immediately set out after the dog wagon, but Jock and Trusty were ahead of him. Their barking made the horses bolt, and the wagon overturned. Jim Deer, arriving on the scene, said to the dog catcher, "There's been a mistake. That dog is mine." And he freed Tramp and brought him home to a hero's welcome. And now it is another Christmas, and the baby has grown, but so has the family. Jim Deer and Darling have quite a time getting them all in a Christmas picture, all holding still at the same time. There's Baby, Lady, and Tramp, proudly wearing a collar too, and 4 little pups. 3 of them look just like their gentle mother, but the 4th one, Scamp, is a chip off the old block. The end. Here's some history about the story and movie. Alright, so our next story stop will be another animal story, the Aristocats, in the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to y'all later.